Walk into any American mall right now, and you'd think the economy is booming. The food courts are crowded, clothing stores are busy, shoppers are walking out with bags in both hands. But behind that buzz, there's a quiet contradiction. Credit card debt in the US just hit record highs, topping $1.1 trillion. It's a strange picture. Consumers are spending like it's 2019, even as their balances and interest payments soar. The question is, what's really going on here? Is this a story of confidence in the economy or denial about what's coming next? Let's start with the reality behind the numbers. According to the Federal Reserve, credit card balances are higher than ever. Not only that, but delinquency rates, people falling behind on payments, are rising too. Average interest rates on cards have climbed above 21%, the highest in decades. That means for millions of Americans, everyday spending is now more expensive than ever. And yet, the spending hasn't stopped. Retail sales are steady. Travel bookings are strong. Restaurant traffic is back to pre-pandemic levels. On paper, it looks like consumers are shrugging off the pain and powering the economy forward. But beneath the surface, this isn't about confidence. It's about coping. Because the reality is, many Americans aren't spending out of optimism. They're spending out of habit or necessity, or a desperate attempt to hold on to a lifestyle that inflation has quietly eroded. Over the last 2 years, prices have risen faster than wages for most households. Groceries, rent, insurance, and healthcare have all gotten more expensive. So, people are filling the gap with credit, not because they're feeling rich, but because they're trying to keep up. It's the illusion of stability, powered by plastic. Economists call this consumption smoothing. When incomes can't stretch far enough, consumers borrow to maintain their standard of living. But that only works for so long. Eventually, the bills come due, and when they do, the slowdown hits hard. So why hasn't it hit yet? Because the American consumer is nothing if not resilient. The job market, despite high interest rates, remains strong. Unemployment is low. Home equity values are still high. That gives people a sense of security, a belief that they can manage their debt eventually. But this comfort has a dangerous side. It's creating a confidence mirage, where spending looks healthy, but the foundation is fragile. Let's take a look at what's actually driving mall traffic and consumer demand right now. First, there's what economists call revenge spending. After years of pandemic restrictions, people are still prioritizing experiences, dining out, traveling, and entertainment, even if they have to borrow to do it. They're choosing moments over money after realizing how quickly both can vanish. Second, there's a shift in how people think about debt itself. A generation raised on buy now, pay later apps, easy credit approvals, and digital banking no longer sees borrowing as dangerous. For many, it's just another subscription, part of the monthly rhythm of life. And third, marketing has evolved. Retailers have mastered emotional persuasion, selling not just products, but identity and escape. In uncertain times, buying feels like control. Swiping the card feels like a small victory against the anxiety of everything else. But this confidence comes at a price, literally. The average household is now paying hundreds more each month in interest compared to 2 years ago. For lower-income families, that's the difference between stability and stress. For businesses, it's a ticking time bomb. Because when debt finally becomes too heavy to carry, spending drops fast, and when American spending drops, everything slows. Remember, nearly 70% of the US economy runs on consumer spending. That means every bag leaving a mall, every restaurant meal, every vacation booked, all of it adds up to national growth. So what happens if shoppers suddenly hit the brakes? Retailers would feel it first. Then manufacturers, logistics firms, and even service providers would follow. It's a chain reaction, and the first signs are already emerging. Delinquencies on credit cards and auto loans are climbing fastest among younger consumers. Some retailers are reporting higher returns and smaller average purchases. It's subtle, but it's there. And yet, policymakers and business leaders face a dilemma. Because if consumers do pull back too sharply, it could tip the economy into a slowdown. So the Federal Reserve, while fighting inflation, is walking a tightrope. Cool the economy enough to control prices, but not so much that shoppers stop spending entirely. That's why this moment feels so strange, both fragile and strong at the same time. The malls are full because Americans are masters of adaptation. They always find a way to keep moving, even when the math doesn't make sense. But that resilience can blur into denial when it hides deeper problems. Still, there's another layer to this story, and it's not all negative. For businesses, this paradox of broke but buying consumers is reshaping strategy. Retailers are learning to be smarter, not louder. They're focusing on value, loyalty, and flexibility. They know shoppers are cautious, so they're meeting them halfway with smarter discounts, buy now, pay later options, and curated experiences instead of mass promotions. In fact, the companies thriving right now are those that understand the psychology behind the spend. They know it's not about price alone, it's about perception. Consumers don't necessarily want cheaper, they want meaning. They want purchases that feel worth it, even if they're stretching to afford them. That's why premium brands are still performing well, even as budgets tighten. It's not denial, it's selective indulgence. Americans are cutting back where it hurts least, so they can still afford what feels most rewarding. So, is this record-breaking debt a sign of confidence or a sign of trouble? It might be both. The optimism is real. People believe in their jobs, their futures, and the resilience of the American economy. But the denial is real too. The belief that debt can stretch forever without consequences. Sooner or later, something has to give. Either incomes rise enough to make debt manageable, or consumers start adjusting their lifestyles to match reality. Until then, we're living in a strange balancing act, an economy that runs on confidence but is financed by credit. The malls are busy, but behind every bag and receipt lies a question. How long can we keep pretending this is normal?